think we live in utterly strange times. I don't think any of us 20 years ago would have prophesized a war between India and Pakistan, which was taking place over, densely populated cities, with the skies turning into a battlefield. And I think what's scary or worrying, and again, not to cause any alarm, but to recognize it as a challenge, is what all three of you have pointed out, that this technology can fall into hands of those who can be denied, by states. That's what Pakistan has always done. It has disassociated itself from the acts of terrorists, which is what Operation Sindoor sought to change, that we will no longer accept this distinction. Now, talking about Operation Sindoor, a key part of modern warfare. We've spoken about the platforms, drones, missiles. What about information warfare? And this has become a big debate after General Chauhan's comments to Bloomberg, to Reuters in Singapore. I want to start by actually just reminding anybody who hasn't seen it, to playing out just that little clip to Bloomberg on whether Indian jets were downed or not.
General, there's still one unanswered question since the incident between Pakistan and India, and that is whether or not Pakistan downed an Indian jet, or in fact more than that. Can you confirm?
I think what is important is that not the jet being down, but why they were being down.
But a jet, at least one jet was downed?
Yeah. Why they were. So the good part is that we are able to understand the tactical mistake which we made, remedy it, rectify it, and then implement it again after 2 days, and flew all our jets, again targeting at long range, which I said.
Pakistan claims 6 Indian jets were downed. Is it correct in that estimate?
Absolutely incorrect, and that is not information which I said is important. What is important is why they went down. That is more important for us. And what did we do after that? That's more important.
So I want to actually start with you, Srimoy, because I know that you were less than convinced about why this interview had to take place at all. You felt that Bloomberg is anyway hostile, or either hostile or ignorant. Western media has been that for a large part of Operation Sindoor. And if I'm not wrong, going by your comments on social media, you believe that General Chauhan should not have spoken at all to Bloomberg or to Reuters. I want your take. Why do you feel that?
There are several aspects to your question. Let me unpack it one by one. First, I think that General Chauhan, the serious Chauhan, is the senior most military officer, and he was engaging with the reporter with all sincerity, as all armed forces personnel do, and he was engaging in good faith. Unfortunately, that small conversation was blown out of proportion, and that conversation was not entirely new. It was the same thing which was said by the DGMOs in the Tri-Services press conference that took place on both days. And the reason why I thought that this was not done is that the Western media is always looking for a confirmation bias. It is not interested in the truth. From the very beginning, its sole lens of looking at Operation Sindoor has been how many jets have been downed by Pakistan on the Indian side. How many jets, fighter jets, has India lost? This has been the sole lens through which this war was being looked at. Nothing else mattered. So I thought that since the serious Chauhan did not really give any new information except admitting to a tactical mistake, my worry was that point will be handed over as part of a narrative war, which will then be hammered by Pakistan. We all know revels in fabrications and lies. And relatedly, I think that I am not remotely suggesting that serious Chauhan does not know his job. He is the senior most officer, and he's reached that point due to his valor and his competence. But then communication strategy is a very specialized subject. And if you look at other countries, let's say Pentagon has a separate press corps, and there the press gaggle are engaged by a team of professionals whose job it is to engage with all the reporters. And you'll notice that this new Trump administration is quite hostile to the media centers which it considers to be hostile to it. So, it is a strategy which is adopted. And I think that engaging in good faith with bad faith actors is pointless, because anyway, you are not going to get your point across. As far as the necessity of admitting to the fighter jet is concerned, I thought that DGMOs had made it very clear that
Hang on. We've lost you brief. Let me just jump in there because Shimoy, we lost you briefly, but I got
losses
the
are
essence.
inevitable in combat.
Oh, you're back.
And all pilots
You're
are
back.
back home. It should have stopped there. The powers that be who are in the know of these things, they will take their appropriate lessons from it. So that has been my point from this entire exercise.
So let me start with the second first. I actually agree with you. I could not understand General Hasnain why everybody kept saying, for the very first time, General Chauhan had said, oh, the jets were down. From the very first day that this question was raised, Air Marshal Bharti said, it is a combat, losses will take place, our pilots are home, right? So I actually did not see it as the first time that General Chauhan so-called admitted everything. I also agree with Shrimoy that this obsession on, damage to machines is really besides the point, especially when we know that all our pilots came home. But I want you to pick up his larger point. Should the general, our Faujis are plain spoken. What you see is what you get. I think Shrimoy is saying you're playing in a world which isn't like that. It's starting off with a bias. Should our men and women in uniform be put in a position where they have to deal with these questions, or should it be the job of diplomats or a government spokesperson or a politician and so on? What do you say, General Hasnain?
I was following the entire conversation. Excellent, absolutely. And I agree with Srimoy. And I agree with you, both. I mean, you're 100% right that General Chauhan said nothing different. He said almost everything in slightly different words. Yeah. However, it's never good to say what you would have done. What I would have done, if I was asked this question, I would have just said, this has already been explained by the Director General Air Operations in a conference in Delhi. I have nothing to add.
That's right.
That is the way to always handle these questions. I have handled them in Singapore many times also. And I can assure you the Singapore media, it was not a searching question, but it was a question which was slightly awkward in the current circumstances. No doubt about it. But it was an expected question. It was an expected question. Someone should have looked at it. Someone should have briefed General Chauhan, because not every general always has the time. He's got his mind buzzing with thousands of things at the same time. To find the right words at the right time, appropriate moment to say something may not always be easy. So for that sake, that as you very correctly say, you always have a spokesman. A spokesperson says it, right?
Yeah.
But I do agree that actually on the sidelines of the Shangri-La dialogue, why give an interview of this kind to Bloomberg of all companies, right? Or organizations? I think it was better avoided. But having said that, I also stand by the fact that General Chauhan said nothing wrong and nothing different. He said what exactly had been mentioned before.
Marshal, what do you say? Here's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of scenario, right? The Western press is at best ignorant, at worst biased. This is just the truth. There might be one or two exceptions. Some serious analysts, whether it's Tom Cooper or, there's Walter Legman at King's College, they have been forced to look at satellite images. They've said, okay, look, the air bases were destroyed in Pakistan. But if you don't engage, they're going to write what they want to anyway. If you do engage, maybe the thinking is that you can place more information in front of them. What did you think of General Chauhan's comments?
Like both the speakers have already covered, that this question had to be expected from someone. Now, specifically, we are saying that whosoever asked has a bias. But knowing all that, this question was to be expected. Secondly, there was already clarification publicly given by Air Marshal Bharti in a press meeting. So therefore, there is nothing more to add to it, to my mind. So what is important is that acceptance that, yes, we made a mistake and we had a correction implemented and we got on with whatever we wanted to do. And that is more important, which is the fact as far as the war fighting is concerned. Because 22nd of April, this incident happens, and 6th, 7th night is the time we have launched our strikes. Do you think Pakistan was not prepared? So Pakistan was expecting something every single day and night. So therefore, there would be some losses which had to be absorbed. Whether you have the capacity to absorb those losses, stand up and again take next action that you have already planned or not. And that is what is more important. And whatever be the losses which Air Marshal Bharti had mentioned in his briefing, and subsequently now whatever CDS is saying, what is important is whether we have gone deep inside their territory and damaged those airfields or not without doing any damage to civilian property. That is more important. Nobody is asking question as to how you stood up so tall and strong to take this action and finish whatever you wanted to do within 3-4 days. That is more important, or whether counting losses and all is important. And we are saying that all our pilots are home. Secondly, whatever studies are happening in Western media and in Pakistan, I heard somebody giving service numbers of the pilot and what is his bed number in the hospital. That is amazing. I mean, what are you? You put a GPS trackers on those, and you're monitoring with cameras behind those pilots. What are you doing? And for what? Pilots are home. Our air headquarters are declared. Our CDS is saying, what are you even talking about?
So let's come back. Let's come back to how this could have been handled in an alternate universe. General Hassan, you wanted to come in, but I want to just quote just one sentence. I was interviewing this King's College professor called Walter Ladwig, and he has, I would say, a relatively nuanced essay on the operation. Now, one of the things he said was that even more impressive than the reach of Operation Sindoor was the restraint India showed on the first day. And one of the things that he actually said was that India's pilots took great operational risk. This is his sentence. India's pilots took great operational risk to maintain this restraint on the first day. Now, it could be that this is the tactical mistake that General Chauhan is talking about. We don't know. We don't need to know. What I don't understand is why are the people who are obsessed with these down jets obsessed with these down jets? How does it matter in the big picture? Question one. Question two. Should General Chauhan then not engage with media at all? Much has also been made by international media. Aren't you in a kind of Hobson's choice here? General Hassan, can you hear me, sir? I can't hear you. Okay.
Yeah, Barkha, can I come in here?
Yeah. Air Marshal, you come in because General Hassan we've lost briefly. I'm sure he'll reconnect.
Barkha, it's very strange in today's world to say that CDS doesn't engage with media when he goes out. I'll give you a small example. In 2004, I had participated in an exercise in Alaska, and when I went, I was briefed categorically, no press briefings. Now there we were on the tarmac. The CNN correspondent came and caught me as I was walking back from the aircraft. And now you can't say, shoo, I can't talk to you. So I had to tell him. And he asked me a very, very, pertinent question from his side. Whether this training that you have come to Alaska for, is it because India is likely to be part of NATO? Now, a pilot, a group captain of Indian Air Force does not have such a big picture in his pocket to answer this. But I said, no, I don't think, because there is no such briefing to me. So I don't think this is part of that bigger grand strategy. And if you want to answer this question, there are people back home who can give you answer. So that is one way of tackling it. Whereas CDS sitting in his chair, he can't throw an answer like this. So he has done what best he could say. And there is nothing wrong from what line government of India or whosoever strategy makers in the proper place have followed this.
Let me get Srimoy to come in there, and I'll give General Hassan the last word. Srimoy, from what I understood, you're basically saying Pakistan's going to play up. There were a couple of other comments, right, that were in focus. One that he spoke about responsibility. He said it in the context of no nuclear signaling, because the Americans were making a big tamasha of a possible nuclear conflict. There was also some commentary that he didn't have to, give Pakistan that that reference. The second comment was like what you made, that why do you have to talk about a tactical mistake? That's an internal conversation. Now, my reading of it was what I said. Our forge is a plain spoken forge. It's also a confident military. They basically know that they hammered the Pakistanis by day 4. They said, theek hai, shuru mein we took a few knocks, we corrected, and we know the outcomes. Literally, like, said it like it happened. You are saying that's not necessarily smart in this day and age because
I think that information warfare is also runs parallel to the actual warfare, and many times it is complementary, and it can help you achieve your objectives. You asked a question previously about why were the Western observers so fixated on the number of Indian jets that were down. They were seeing it from their own perspective, and their perspective is that if Pakistan is using Chinese missiles to shoot down a French system, then it means that in the larger scheme of things, when America goes in for a war with China, then what will be the advantage or the disadvantage? That has been its sole framing for as far as this operation is concerned. And my larger point that I said was that yes, the CDS is well within his rights to speak. It's just that I thought that he gave no new information, and he didn't need to, because that has already been made clear. The only thing that came to the fore was a bit of confusion, because he as far as I am concerned, and I could be wrong here, he meant to, I got an idea that he meant to say that the Pakistanis are also rational actors, in the sense that there was no nuclear threat at any moment, because Trump made a huge deal out of it.
correct.
Maybe the
correct.
framing of the word could have been a little better. I'll give you that. But I think the larger point was absolutely correct, that the West keeps on nagging about this, as if these are two children with nuclear bombs. They don't know what they're going to do. The fact is that we are rational actors, and we know what we are doing. The entire Operation Sindoor and the retaliation and the counter retaliation took place as a subconventional level. So at no point should the West, get its knickers twisted over this issue.
Absolutely. That's how I read the comment as well. But General Hussain, I'll give you the last word. We lost you briefly there. Take away the closing remark. I think I was trying to ask you, it's a difficult choice. If you don't engage and the other guys are engaging, should you care? Do you just ignore it? You're at a big international summit. It could be that the Pakistani generals are also sitting down. And then, your people will start saying, Hamare log to bolte hi nahi, kyun nahi bolte? I think the answer is, and I agree with Shri Moy, that why should General Chauhan have to answer these questions? These questions have been answered. There's the government spokesperson. He or she will answer these questions, or a DG Stratcom or something. Last word to you, General Hussain.
Thank you, Barkha. Firstly, Barkha, one issue which has not perhaps been touched upon is the fact that you have to credit General Chauhan for one thing. He gave a lie, put it to the lie, as far as the Pakistani propaganda was concerned, that the Indian Air Force, after the 8th morning, was down and out for the next 48 hours. He is the one who said we rectified our mistakes and went back and struck deep inside. He's the only one who made that statement very clearly. Otherwise, the Pakistanis were going great guns trying to bring about this thing internationally all over the world, that the Indian Air Force did not have the thing in them after having lost aircraft supposedly to come back and be available once again in the skies. But clearly, General Chauhan has clarified that whole issue and put the lie to it completely. Secondly, on this issue, there will be mistakes. I'm not saying he has made a mistake, but if you don't speak, you will never sort of get into this habit of it. Information and strategic communication hasn't been the strongest point of the Indian Armed Forces. And I do strongly feel the time has come for us to institutionalize. I've been speaking and writing on this for the better part of the last 12 years, that we need to institutionalize this. One aspect is military information, there's no doubt about it, but there's a larger aspect of security information. And you need to have diverse players coming together to put their heads together to do it, without academics, for example, without intelligence experts, and without media experts to guide you. You can't have this kind of a thing. So I would strongly recommend that at the end of the day, we need to start pursuing the possibility of creating an institution which looks at it at the strategic level at the operational level, and down below at the tactical level, where already we have got kernel media and that kind of a thing, which has already been introduced in various headquarters.
Sure.
But the last word on it, I would say, General Chauhan, I would recommend to him, continue speaking. Don't take us for a back step on this. Continue speaking, because the people will put you under pressure to say you should not have spoken, you should not have done this. People like me may have also said that. But at the end of the day, he is correct. He must speak.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, because, you don't want General Chauhan to retreat into some sort of, behind a wall of silence,
Absolutely.
just because there are three opinions, different divergent opinions on how that interview went. And I personally, my first comment on X was, it's a confident military that can actually talk about tactical mistakes. You're so confident in the outcome. I do take Srimoy's point, though, about Pakistani propaganda and Western bias. I think we've all seen it very closely in the last fortnight or so. That said, General Chauhan showed that he was willing to take on any question head on. And that's what it's all about. The larger conversation remains, people have also pointed out these bipartisan delegations that have gone. They have diplomats, but they don't have any military presence. And a number of the questions and the outreach has to be military. What happened to the air bases? How the damage that was done? What really happened to a so-called nuclear war possibility? So that's something to think about. We leave it there. Srimay Talukdar, Emashal Nanotkar, General Hassain. Always a pleasure to our audience. Thank you and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Wojha Story and support independent, robust journalism.